Hey guys, welcome to another episode of A Critic's Journey, and today I'm taking a look at a comedy that when I first saw it, it made me laugh. When I've revisited a couple of times over the past few years, it's made me laugh. All the way back from 2001, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. Now, this is back when I was a huge Kevin Smith fan. I loved Mallrats, I loved Clerks. Chasing Amy till today is still in my top 10 movies of all time. I absolutely adore that film. When Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back came out, I remember a lot of people were kind of like, man, this is absolute drivel. But I absolutely love this film. My friends and I still quote some of the lines from this film, especially the lines around Matt Damon and Ben Affleck in this film. It has everything that you want in a good comedy. It's got a great story. This whole idea that Jay and Silent Bob, played by Jason Mewes and of course Kevin Smith, want to go to Hollywood to stop this Blunt Man and Chronic film from being made. And this was at a time when comic book movies were kind of lame. We'd come out of that period where we'd seen some great Batman movies, of course, with like Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson and all of them. And it had gone back to when comic books were kind of really lame. And you fully understood why these two didn't want this film to be made with the characters that were based on them. And Kevin Smith was such a visionary director back in these times that he could do a comedy like this, make it completely childish, but still have you laughing all throughout the film. And he does that so well with this film. I'd forgotten parts of the film when I went back to watch it. I forgot about the monkey and stuff like that, and it just works exceptionally well. The whole storyline with James Van Der Beek and Jason Biggs playing themselves in the film because they're playing Blunt Man and Chronic. It's amazing. Like the way that they make fun of themselves, like James Van Der Beek yelling out, "I'm a WB star," and poor Jason Biggs being referred to as the pie effer for the entire film. But also like Matt Damon and Ben Affleck in this as well. Like they play their characters that they've played previously in Kevin Smith films, but then they also play themselves later on. And they kind of play it off that Ben Affleck is a pervert and like he's constantly being arrested for killing hookers and stuff on the WB set. And it just works. Kevin Smith being the film buff that he is, he's got all these in-jokes in there for these different actors playing themselves. Then you've got these great guest appearances by people like Eliza Dushku appearing in there. And everything just works. The banter between Jason Mewes and Kevin Smith, even though Kevin Smith doesn't talk, it's funny. And all the laughs are there for a reason. There's no forced laughs in this film. Everything absolutely works. And yeah, sure, there are some childish jokes in there, but Kevin Smith always had that way of being able to make a childish joke work to the point where adults found it funny too. And that's what happens all the way through Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. There's also an absolutely fantastic soundtrack with bands like Bon Jovi on there, and it's a soundtrack that I actually have a CD copy of, and I still listen to this day. It's an amazing soundtrack. Just everything that Kevin Smith put together in this film worked. It almost feels like an amalgamation of the movies that he'd made previously, because if you go back and think about it, Clerks was kind of alternative. It was an alternative comedy. It was a little indie comedy that worked. Mallrats was kind of more over-the-top kind of comedy. Chasing Amy was more of a serious comedy. There was a real serious side to Chasing Amy. In fact, I'll probably go back and take a look at Chasing Amy in an episode soon, because, yeah, it is one of my favorites to go back and watch. Jay and Silent Bob kind of brings all of that stuff together. It is like Mallrats in that it's over the top kind of comedy, but there's a couple of serious moments in there as well, especially around Silent Bob. And I don't know, it just, to me, if I was ranking Kevin Smith's movies, Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back would probably be my number 2 movie behind Chasing Amy, just because everything in it works so well. It's a comedy that makes you laugh. You've got the guys in there making fun of themselves. Ben Affleck and Matt Damon's scenes in this movie are just absolutely fantastic. They're memorable. The fact that, like I said before, my friends and I still quote this movie sometimes when we're mucking around, and the film's been out now for 20 years. So that's really, really saying something about the quality of the film. I know a lot of people out there are going to think I'm absolutely crazy for doing this, but I still give this film 5 stars. I think it is an absolutely amazing comedy that works so well on so many levels. Whenever people say to me about Kevin Smith's films these days and what a mess they are, I agree. I can't believe that this director that I loved so much when I was growing up today makes these movies that just pale into insignificance when you look at the quality of his work back in the early 2000s and the 1990s. Even this morning, I saw a Facebook post from him saying that they were starting work on Clerks 3, and I'm kind of scared about what Clerks 3 is going to end up being like, because, Clerks 2 was a disaster, and I got to say I wasn't a fan of Jay and Silent Bob, the reboot, either. So I'm a little bit scared about that, but look, if you want to take a little journey back to when Kevin Smith was a great director, go back and take a look at Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back. Have a laugh at what happens with Jason Biggs, James Van Der Beek, Ben Affleck, Matt Damon. Have a laugh at all of that, but also remember just what quality characters Jay and Silent Bob was, and brilliantly played by Kevin Smith and Jason Mewes. But that's it for this episode of A Critic's Journey. I am giving 5 stars to Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back. It definitely still holds up.